A pleasure to meet all at last. Welcome back to Films I'm Willing to Talk About Again. So now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go a little ways into the future during the midst of the 2010s and talk a bit about a prequel that has predated the likes of the Despicable Me films. In 2015, we got a prequel film known as Minions. Yeah, pretty much the height of the success of the Despicable Me franchise, and the overall peak of when Illumination became popular, alongside the likes of Pixar and DreamWorks. So in any case, this was pretty much the point of Illumination where I feel like it truly has heralded itself in a rather big way. Because Minions was unlike most prequels. It really taught us about how the Minions truly came to be, and also what do they truly do in life, long before the days of Gru, Dr. Nefario, the Three Girls, and pretty much everyone else. So, the plot of the film basically starts off way back in history. The prehistoric times, Dracula's time, and various other points in history. They're all parodized in a unique way. Basically, you have the characters known as the Minions. They're the lovable group of young beings whom are basically like annoying talking banana people, made to serve the likes of nefarious Gru. But long before any of that ever happened, they served a big number of different leaders and other such persons that were notorious over the years. And the unfortunate thing though, is that with them being some bumbling individuals, kind of like Inspector Gadget, the Minions unfortunately were dumb enough and bumbling enough to cause their own masters to die. Yeah, Dracula gets turned to ash after being exposed to the sun on his birthday, and you have a giant dinosaur who falls to his death, and then you have all these other leaders and all these other figures in history that are usually known for the likes of such horrible crimes like genocide. But the thing is, even though the Minions constantly lose their masters and constantly lose their way, they still find a way to piece themselves back together and eventually go on the road to find someone to serve. It all comes down eventually to around the 1960s. Yes, this was a big point in American culture where a number of things took place, from civil rights to women's freedom. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure nobody would have expected that this was also a time where the Minions would pretty much catch a break after all these years have passed by since they first tried to find a master but ended up killing it, then repeating the same mistake over and over and over again. You see, there was actually a family out on the road in which a few of the Minions strive away from the group in order to find somebody to serve, and surprisingly, they successfully managed to gain the trust and love of these people. This group, of course, does include a few children, who the Minions take a bit of a liking to. Believe it or not, though, this family actually is a big series of criminals. Yeah, a crime family. If you thought it was horrible in the state of California back in the day, well, take a look at these guys. They're driving a station wagon full of armed robbers. And the Minions pretty much had no idea that it would eventually happen. But well, you know what? It's a unique turn of events. Who would have thought that an entire family would be so casual about robbing a bank, tripping the alarm, getting chased by cops, and then unexpectedly, the Minions become so bumbling that they cause a water tower to fall, blocking the road. Well, talk about turning your life around. It's an unexpected piece that's kind of reminded me of Clumsy from the Smurfs, the way that he was able to defeat Gargamel. But in any case though, this was a whole different thing that went down 4 years apart from each other, and I'd say with the bumbling factor, it's no wonder why times have gotten so simple, thereby allowing people to become so stupid. But I mean, this is kind of the formula of things nowadays. There's that unexpected surprise that we tend to get from someone who we would have never imagined would actually go this far to save their people. I mean, just think, if I could become very stupid one day, which might happen one day, but I'm still going to have the best mentality that I possibly ever will in history. I'm sure even then there might be some turn of events that will occur that will allow for me to actually regain a number of attributes that I had since lost. But hey, we'll always look to the future in a positive manner. Us optimists are always looking forward to tomorrow. Anyways though, the minions eventually find their way to a special convention center for criminals and such empires that are based on organization. And well, what do they eventually find? They eventually find a special figure that is advertised on posters and whatnot. They eventually find her sitting in a secret room. I'm talking about Scarlet Overkill. Yeah, the minions this entire time were looking forward to finding a special master to serve, but with all these mistakes, they never would have expected someone else to turn up and eventually overshadow everybody else. But well, it turns out they were wrong the whole time. And all this advertising and all this excitement about a woman known by the name of Scarlet Overkill really goes to show that she means serious business. So what do? Well, the minions, they do make their way to her, they greet her, and they hope to serve under her. With the big number of minions, she probably would not have expected so much company to turn up, but you know what? It's a bit of a series of complications that does eventually boil down to what's truly going to happen. Are the minions actually going to have somebody to serve, or is it pretty much going to be something entirely different? As opposed to all the other masters that they have accidentally killed off, well, Scarlet does eventually become their person that they're looking for. But in any case, this is one of those things in life that they would not have expected to turn out negatively. It's kind of unfortunate for them, but Scarlet eventually stops caring for them. She, along with Dr. Flux, this duo pretty much becomes their mortal enemy. A mortal enemy basically doubled. So talk about a string of events eventually turning down into a deep dark hole from which they can never climb out of. Well, up there in the country of England, where Scarlet Overkill plans a huge heist as well as a multitude of different problems for the Queen of England herself, well, it's up to the minions to actually play the role of the hero in this occasion. So what do they end up doing? Well, there's a multitude of different things that go down. The minions getting locked up, Dr. Flux's various inventions, including a growth and shrink type of ray, and also the usage of various unique weapons. This eventually comes down to a point where one minion ends up getting turned giant, is basically threatening the whole township itself, the whole city of London, into basically crushing everything. Scarlet tries to make herself a getaway, but what happens? Well, she gets blown up, and unfortunately, this doesn't end up killing her. But what does end up happening is quite unexpected. After all, this is a prequel that takes place years before the events of Despicable Me. So who shows up to finally rid her once and for all? Gru. Yes, that's right. This is basically the point where the freeze ray is used for the first time in Gru's history, and it's successful. She gets shrouded in a block of ice. He eventually takes the crown from her, far away from the queen, and while the queen does reward the likes of the minions with various items, they basically don't feel like serving her, just because she's more good than evil. And so I feel like that with that in mind, this was a unique piece worth watching. When I saw it in theaters in 2015, I had no idea what to possibly expect. Because knowing prequels, they sometimes are a bit on the low end, knowing that sometimes they take a bit of liberty from various people who might have been fans of these franchises, but obviously were not very aware of the kind of inventory and planning that would have been needed in order to make a certain origin story occur. Well, knowing all the things prequel related, like Leatherface 2017, or Aliens Prometheus, or even the likes of Transformers Origins. Or we could just say Beast Wars, since that technically took place millions of years before Transformers G1 in 1984. But above all that stuff though, I will say that Minions is definitely worth watching. And knowing I might give it another watch again just to have the true feeling of how it was in 2015, perhaps that itself will be quite a good way to have some closure. And knowing that we're going to have another Despicable Me film later this year, it goes to show we're truly going to have some big expectations. So I'm more than excited for what Despicable Me 4 will have to offer, and more importantly, knowing that Minions: The Rise of Gru gave us more or less of a sequel feel than a prequel feel. I will say that film might not have been as good as the first, but it sure was quite entertaining, and quite a way to have more Gru involved rather than just the Minions. But it still does go to show the Minions themselves were what we were truly looking for when it comes to villainous characters. So I feel like that is a good way to wrap things up. 8.4 out of 10.1 for Minions 2015. And if you're hoping to get a good ranking of the sequel, well, just for fun, I'll give it a 7.7. So with that in mind, I'll see you guys later with the next piece. And also, on Monday, another film will be picked for me to check out and give my own review.
I want you, but I don't have you yet. I ain't got no tricks to be playing on you.